Ladies and gentlemen, welcome live to 3Y TV for tonight's broadcast of the American Sim Racing Series, live from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Just outside of Atlanta, you'll find the mile-and-a-half racetrack that is oh so tricky, the oldest surface in NASCAR, and it is absolutely toasty out here today. I've heard from a lot of drivers, there's just not a lot of grip at this racetrack right now. 106 degrees track temperature, and it will be, as they say, Hotlanta here tonight. I'm Peter Short. Joining me in the booth here tonight is Greg Rentz and Jim Foose. Jim is away for just a brief moment, attending to the league that he organizes. But Greg, great to be here at Atlanta Motor Speedway amid all of the things going on right now across the United States and the world. But we got racing right here.
I'm excited. This is my first trip to Atlanta, and looks like qualifying is getting ready to start. I'm seeing a couple of cars rolling out for qualifying now, and Peter, unlike the Northwest Tour that me and you normally called, we actually broadcast qualifying here. So talk us through qualifying here, because this is the Hacksaw PC's challenge, I believe, is what's going on. Oh wait, no, that's the series name. I'm sorry, this is not my normal series. But Peter, we got qualifying on track.
Yeah, we do. In fact, we got Pete Baskins right here, and it's the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. But, and I'm sure Jim Foose will be talking about this in just a moment, it's actually the SERVPRO the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown. This is race one. It's a kind of a championship within a championship, and the winner at the end of the Showman Showdown, the Wheelman Showdown, getting to me right here, but the Wheelman Showdown, you get a wheel at the end of it. You get one of the Sam Maxwell Custom's wheels for your sim rig. So that is something a lot of these drivers do want. Sam Maxwell makes awesome wheels, and SERVPRO has jumped on board as a series sponsor this year and has set up this Wheelman Showdown. And we got qualifying. It's a 10-minute qualifying session. There's the number 77 of Alex Giese going around the racetrack right now. These drivers get 2 time laps, and as you can see, the shadows in turn number 1 and 2 will give the track. Oh man, that looked like Steve Buhala might have smacked the wall. I've heard a lot of drivers say this car at this racetrack with the current setup is very, very tight. There's just not a lot of grip, and the aero effects off the back of these cars will be making that worse. So that's going to have to be something we keep an eye on, how many cars make contact with the outside wall coming out of these corners. It's going to be like Darlington, I think, here tonight. Greg, we're going to see a lot of cars smacking that outside wall. Of course, the goal will be to keep it away from that outside safer barrier, but if a car gets a little bit of damage, they'll have to come down and see if they can repair it on pit road. But, of course, here in qualifying, you want to keep all 4 fenders clean to keep that car as fast as possible around this mile-and-a-half racetrack, Greg.
And, Peter, the track temperature is 105 degrees. It has gone down a degree after qualifying started, which started at 106, but still 105. That is scathing hot for track temperature. And with these fresh tires, that's just going to be wicked loose at the start. They're going to have some grip, and it's just going to get looser and looser as it goes on. Qualifying, not so much a problem. You just got to try to hang on and hope for the best. But once this race gets going and we start having long green flag runs, that hot track temperature is going to come into play. But it did not come into play for the 57 of Greg Stykes. He's at the top of the charts right now, a 29.841. One of, looks like quite a few drivers. Looks like the top 10 all in the 29.8 second bracket. Grant Brown, Alex Giese, Will Worsler, Tyler Seville, who was fastest in practice earlier, into number 11. Mitch Brown, Shane Parrish, James Lorello, Nick Curling, Jordan Harnish, and Greg Evans. So 11 cars now, all in the 29.8 second bracket. Peter, this is a very, very tight field, as most these drivers in the 29s to the 30-second bracket. As a matter of fact, the entire field has qualified so far, 32 cars. They are separated by just 0.8 of a second around this very hot, very fast 1.5 mile speedway.
Yeah, and unfortunately that car who's sitting 32nd right now is the 12 machine of Steve Buhala. Remember, we saw him get into the wall in the Hulco Intercon machine. There is the Carolina Simworks number 83 of Greg Evans, currently sitting up in the top half of the field. There we see I believe that's the number 34. Indeed it is. That is Kelsey Rogers, and Kelsey has had some decent start to the season. In fact, let's see if we can bring up the points here in just a second. kind of talk through the current point standings because it has been a very interesting start to the season here in the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. John Jenkins leads the points by only 3 points over Brian Yazik. Ed Bray, Mitch Brown, James Lorello sitting in 5th, Michael Krobach, Joseph Seville, Kelsey Rogers, and Woody Mahan, Richard Stallings down there, only 28 markers behind John Jenkins, both sitting on 28 points back in the 9th position. So very, very cool to see that and see them all pretty close up there near the top. I'm expecting to see Brian Yazik break through at some point this year. We finally saw him break through right at the end of the previous season. But I got to say, one driver who is looking to break through tonight, Craig Stykes, had an awesome run going last week at Phoenix Raceway, but unfortunately got caught up in some incidents towards the end of that race. But he's already set himself second on the board because Greg Evans has actually pipped him in the number 83 machine, gone to the top of the table in the Carolina SimWorks and machine. And I know Greg Evans is glad to be back in that number 83 here tonight. He's won a lot of races here in the American Sim Racing Series. But the track has all of a sudden died down. It's gone quiet. Let's see if we can dial up the number 42 machine, well, formerly number 42 machine. Number 42 is synonymous with the man Jim Foose. And Jim now retiring the number 42 temporarily and sitting up here in the booth with us. And Jim, how's it going?
Yeah, hey, I was doing really good here in Atlanta. I've been having a really good time. And, Ty Hester's suspended from the race this week with the strikes and everything. So he sent his kid over to toilet paper my motorhome. That's a lot of money that kid just wasted on that motorhome. So I'm making him clean it all up right now. But glad I could get back over here and want to thank everybody for calling to let me know that his son was over there TPing the neighborhood for us.
Well, if we can get that sorted out, because TP is, I heard someone over saying at work the other day saying, man, I don't think anyone's house is going to get TP'd for the next 3 months. So at least that's one thing to come out of this mess. But hey, speaking of messes, SERVPRO cleans them up. And Jim, tell us a little bit about the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown.
Yeah, so the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown is a 10-race series. Starts here at Atlanta. We'll carry over to Bristol in a couple weeks, then Richmond, Talladega. So pretty much the whole month of April, we'll be doing the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown. Then we take a little bit of time off. We go to the first Michigan race. Indianapolis in July, the Daytona night race in August, the Charlotte Roval, and we wrap it up just before the end of the season at the Martinsville event in the fall. So 10 races. The driver with the most points in those 10 races wins the Sam Maxwell Custom wheel, courtesy of SERVPRO. And by the way, SERVPRO just got approved today to take care of coronavirus infections and to sanitize buildings and do all that for you. So anybody that needs that, SERVPRO is available and are ready to roll out, and they'll make it like it never even happened.
Yeah, very cool to have as we got a little kazoo back there from Mr. Carlos Custom, manning the cameras. But yeah, very cool to have SERVPRO on board. I know just the amount of sponsorship involvement here in the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Series is awesome to see. And having someone like SERVPRO on board for multiple races and doing the Wheelman Showdown is pretty darn cool, I gotta say. And at the end of it, getting that Sam Maxwell Customs wheel, that's going to be something I'm sure drivers will just be salivating over the thought of winning that wheel when it's all said and done. But the qualifying is just about to wrap up. We've had 34 drivers take time here in this qualifying session so far. We are getting word that the number 1 machine and the number 8 machine will both have to take a end of longest line penalty at the start of the race, the one being Jason Stewart, and the number 8 machine being Jimmy McKee. McKee actually went out there and turned a time. He's currently sitting 18th on the board, but he will be starting at the back of tonight's field. But wow, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what tonight brings. I know I've highlighted the fact that this racetrack is very, very tight, but Atlanta's usually a racetrack that we come to and we're talking about the very opposite. We're talking about a loose race car. And of course, with this huge spoiler providing so much rear downforce, Greg, that really it's not all too surprising, I guess, that we see a tight race car out there with that much rear downforce.
No, it's really not. The addition to downforce, or the addition of downforce, I should say, much like we see every Sunday in the real NASCAR Cup Series. It almost turns this into a bit of a plate race, just with the way the cars stick together and they're able to draft off of each other. It almost reminds you of a race that we typically would see at Daytona and or Talladega. So I'm curious to see how it unfolds at Atlanta, because did a race at Charlotte last year, and it was actually the first race on iRacing with that new aero package that we see here tonight, which Charlotte, of course, identical layout, but a much newer surface. And that race was incredible in the ASRS series. So I'm curious to see how this one goes. And it looks like we're gridding, so we're getting ready to start. So Peter and Jim, who's starting where in this one?
Well, starting on the pole will be the number 83 of Greg Evans at Carolina Simworks machine. Very, very quick in qualifying with a 29.833. Right behind him, Craig Stykes looking to break through to get to victory lane in the number 57 Slice Porcupines machine. Make sure to go check them out if you're in the St. Petersburg area. Grant Brown will be starting from row number 2 from the 3rd position. Alex Giese to his outside of the number 77. One thing I know about Giese is this is a racetrack where Giese qualifies very well at. He did so last year. Will Worsler will roll off from P5. Tyler Seville, P6. Mitch Brown and Shane Parrish make up row number 4. Kelsey Rogers in the 34 machine, and James Lorello to his outside. Lorello had a great run going last week at Phoenix Raceway till the last late race incidents kind of set him back. And starting in the 11th position, well, Jim, take it away.
And Nick Curling in the number 10 will start 11th with Jordan Harnish alongside in 12th. Cody Spiker in 13th and Troy Haight in 14th. 15th goes to Chris Stouffer with Brian Yazik alongside. Michael Krobach in the 17th position. Jimmy McKee in the 18th position. John Jenkins, winner just a couple weeks ago at Las Vegas, starts 19th. And Nick Gardner in the 20th position.
Jackson Van Valkenburg will roll off from the 21st spot. Mark Cohn will roll off from 22nd. I know he is pretty stoked to be in tonight's field. Pete Baskins in the number 27 rolls off 23rd. Woody Mahan 24th. Jonathan Holstein and Jared Haggerty make up row 13. Row 14, Todd Kirkwood and Alan Young. Behind them, Edward Bray, Ron Shute, Michael Whiting, Adam Jersky, 31st, 32nd. Richard Stallings, Steve Puhala, 33rd, 34th. Behind them, it's going to be Eric Stanford, 35th, Tony Show in 36th, Tim Knott, Jason Stewart, Alexander Pelican, and J.R. Bash. I do believe Pelican has left the server. I think he was one of the alternates. So J.R. Bash and Richard Fletcher will be the last 2 starters in tonight's race. But like I said, a couple of cars receiving end of longest line penalties at the start of this event. Jimmy McKee, Jason Stewart, and Grant Brown. In fact, Grant Brown's qualified 3rd. He's going to drop to the tail end here. You see him down there on the inside line, but pace car lights are off, and Jim, we're about to get set to go green flag.
Yeah, this field nice and tight here through 3 and 4. We're getting ready for it. It moves Will Worsler up to the 3rd position with that 52 car going to the rear. So should be a really interesting start here. We got the most recent 2 winners right there on the inside row. Last year's champion starting inside row 3, and we are green at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah, green flag, really good start for that inside group. Greg Evans getting a push from the number 29 of Will Worsler. Got the win last week at Phoenix Raceway. Mitch Brown sitting right there behind that number 29 machine, but look at that outside. All of a sudden, starting to break up. Whoa, here comes a move possibly from the number 29 of Will Worsler. We're side by side for the race lead, Greg.
Side by side between Worsler and Evans. Worsler sticks the nose inside. Look out for Mitch Brown, the defending series champion. Track temperature 108 and rising. Expect these cars to start breaking loose here in a matter of laps as Worsler leads lap 1 with Evans on the outside. Crossover back there as the number 57 of Craig Stykes tried to get to the inside of Mitch Brown. Brown comes fighting now on the inside of Greg Evans. They go door to door behind the 29 of Will Worsler. Evans able to clear Brown and dive under Worsler. Battle for the lead going into turn 4, Jim.
Yeah, Mitch Brown made a really, really good move there, but a close call with the 57. And Mitch Brown looks like he's going to take over 2nd just after the start-finish line here. And Will Worsler hung there on the outside with his teammate down below.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, guys. We're seeing a lot of the field get single file here in the early goings. I didn't exactly expect that. Of course, up at the front, we have this battle for the race lead as Mitch Brown now is going to look to the inside of Greg Evans. So kind of just shuffling cards up at the front. Brown's going to take that spot. Evan's going to slot into second. Now Worsler in third. Now we go single file pretty much all the way back to around the 14th position. First car side by side is Jackson Van Valkenburg and Michael Krobot. They're even out of your screen. There they are, the number 23 and the 72, that bright blue number 23 machine, kind of a baby blue. And then you have your back of the pack. There they are, and a lot of single file now throughout this pack. Do you think these drivers are just kind of riding? I heard that if this race goes caution-free, now that's the commentator's curse, isn't it? But if this race goes caution-free, it's going to be really tight whether or not they can make it on only one stop.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll be able to make it on one stop. The tires wear here. This is the second oldest asphalt in NASCAR. So I don't think that we're going to make it that far. Just a couple weeks ago when we were at Auto Club, we talked about how old that track is.
Sorry to interrupt there, Jim, but Nick Gardner in the number 38 machine having a whale of a time. And by a whale of a time, I mean that car is just kind of porpoising around. Did a fantastic save. Got really, really loose on entry into turn number 3. There he is. Let's go back and see this on the replay. He got into the outside wall right there. That broke that machine loose. He was saving it down there, dirt tracking it almost on the apron. Finally got it blowed up and saved, but he's going to lose a ton of track position now all the way back to the 36th position or so. As I say that, 40th position. He's now dead last in the field, so he was fairly mid-pack when that all went down. Good save, though. He's going to be able to keep that car going straight and hopefully get that damage repaired to the right-hand side of that car under pit road conditions. But we stay green at least for now. Pretty much single file for your first 10 or so cars. First battle for position is between Jordan Harnish and Chris Stouffer. That's a battle for the 11th position.
And Peter, while we were talking about that 38 car breaking loose, the 28 of Troy Haight, he got super lucky there going into turn 3. 38 missed the back bumper of Haight by about half an inch going into turn 3 there. So Haight very lucky that Gardner broke loose exactly when he did, and it wasn't a millisecond earlier. Otherwise, Troy Haight would have been in a lot of trouble there. And he has since recovered and is now making a pass on the inside of the 23 of Van Valkenburg. Gets it. And no, here comes Van Valkenburg back. Brian Yasick in the 55, kind of back there in the catbird seat, watching this all unfold as James Lorello leads the way. But Troy Haight got lucky and has since recovered and has actually gained a couple of spots, trying to make that inside lane work as he makes his way, trying to break into the top 15. He's got it right now. He's battling with Van Valkenburg for that 15th spot.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's some really good racing right here. We're focusing on the number, who is that? It's the number 32 machine, Jordan Harnish, and he's now riding in the 12th position. But Michael Krobach doing battle with Lorello. Troy Haight still side by side with Van Valkenburg. And Van Valkenburg, guys, seems like he's kind of running that higher groove. He was doing so just a few laps ago, but he's kind of stuck to it. And sometimes using that slightly higher groove will save tires. And Jim, I know that's kind of a strategy, especially here on a racetrack that eats tires, to kind of lay back, do your own thing, and save those tires and make up those positions on the long run. What are your thoughts about different strategies here tonight?
Absolutely, and I was down in the team meeting with Steve Buhala's number 12 team just a little bit ago, and that is their plan here tonight, is to maybe not have to take that it would be the third pit stop for tires, the fourth set of tires during the race, to not have to take that. Remember, we have tire limits in this series, and be able to maybe extend your runs out a little bit longer. The problem with that strategy is going to be the amount of tire wear and tire fall off that we see on the time clock. It's just not, it may not work, and if you're not a top-notch car, it probably won't work. Meanwhile, up at the front, though, Mitch Brown has put a huge gap on Greg Evans. So we're not missing anything up there, but there is some great racing from second on back currently. Mitch Brown just class of the field here in the first 12 laps.
Yeah, and, you know, that might be speaking to that strategy call. Maybe Mitch Brown has decided to go out there and be the rabbit up at the front of the pack and use up his stuff and wait and see if everyone closes in. I do know that the aero push at this racetrack is pretty terrible. So that might have actually played a little bit into that lead. But the number 83 machine, Greg Evans now in a spot where he can save tires, not really in any type of aero push off the back end of the number 51. So we'll see whether or not that evolves as this run goes on. There's Jackson Van Valkenburg going underneath the 3 of James Lorello. Good battle between these two. We saw a lot out of James Lorello last week at Phoenix Raceway. Had a good run there in that bright yellow and orange machine. We ride on board with him here coming out of turn number 2. Looking at the back of Van Valkenburg's machine, got the number 55 of Brian Yazik, and Yazik starting to work his way up through the field. So far, the biggest mover in this event is the number 71 of Adam Jersky. He has moved up from the 32nd spot up into 22nd. We also have some other big movers. Alan Young's moved up 8 spots. But we do have some drivers, of course, going back, like Nick Gardner. He's started the race from 20th. Now he is back to 40th, trying to get some of that damage repaired, I'm sure, under the next pit stop. You can see that that's definitely affecting that number 38 machine. And Jim, when you get a lot of damage on your car, as a race car driver, you know, here in iRacing yourself, sometimes it can be very frustrating. You know, there's really no way to come back from it sometimes, and you just have to manage what you've got.
Absolutely. And when we were here in the development series with the Glassdoor Brewing Truck Series a couple months ago now, I got wrecked by a spinning truck before we even crossed the start-finish line for the green. And it was just a frustrating night all the way from there on out. We ended up in 10th, I think it was, right at the end, but it was just a frustrating night. You're just pounding your head against the wall, just trying to get every little bit that you can. The car doesn't handle right. You really, most likely, if there was a caution, he'd probably want to come in and put tires on it, but with the tire limit, I don't know if he can, if he can afford to do it. So it really is just an uphill battle, and he's in for a long night, especially so early in the running, having the trouble that he did and the damage on the car that he does.
One driver I was kind of expecting to see a little bit closer to the front at this point in the race is actually the number 7 machine, the super clean, tough task cleaner and degreaser machine of John Jenkins. And there he is right behind the number 55 of Brian Yazik, who is trying to get around Jackson Van Valkenburg and the number 23, unable to do so just yet as they go back to single file. But as I say that, here comes Jenkins trying to make a move on Yazik as they dive off into turn number 3. Looks like it's pretty difficult to make a pass on the inside. And Greg, I know you and I saw this multiple times broadcasting the Northwest Tour. Sometimes that inside groove, it's the fastest way around single car wise, but as soon as you get double file, that outside groove can kind of put a killing on that inside.
And we saw it more often than not. The outside lane would kind of take some time to come in, as the inside lane would be the preferred lane at the start. And we especially saw that the last 2 races of that tour, the outside lane would come in later. But this one, it seems like the outside lane is coming in a lot quicker here at Atlanta. And one thing I'm noticing, though, a guy who's not running the outside lane but is closing is the guy in second, Greg Evans. I've been kind of keeping my eye on him. That lead has shrunk from 1.3 seconds down to a fifth of a second, and or half a second, I should say, not a fifth of a second.
Guys,
but, Greg Evans is closing, and it's half a second now between him and Mitch Brown, and he hasn't really been doing anything drastic as far as running lines. He's more or less just been kind of riding in Mitch Brown's tire tracks, but that 83 car, without having that aero push that you talked about, as he shaves 2/10 off there, it's now 3/10 of a second. Mitch Brown in the 51 is losing ground to Greg Evans, guys.
Yeah, well, I also want to make a mention that Ron Shute in the number 22 number 20 machine, he has had an accident on the backstretch. No front end on that car. Didn't bring out a caution here. We'll go back and see if we can find this on the replay. There he is after that damage. We'll see if we can go back just a little bit more to see that happen. Oh, there he goes, and just all by himself. I don't exactly know what led up to that, but a lot of front-end damage to that number 20 machine. Great paint scheme on that car, but unfortunately a lot of heavy front-end damage on that race car, and he will have to battle back from that. And I know, Jim, that kind of goes back to your point and what you were saying a little while ago. Now he has to manage that damage for the entire race. He has a car that won't handle very well if he'll get back out there onto the racetrack.
Yeah, damaged vehicle clock comes into play. He's going to be laps down. He's not going to be a happy camper. Looks like he is waving at one driver with one finger. It's a Hawaiian hello in Atlanta. Anyways, looked like the 86 car might have got into him. Turned him around and started that for him. So his downhill trend of the race, really none of his own doing. And just something that happened there that has taken him out of the running from being possibly a front runner here tonight. Remember, this race is a race of comers and goers. There's going to be guys up front that are going to drop back. There's going to be guys in the back that come up front. There's going to be guys in the middle that make their way forward or backward. You're going to see all sorts of mix up here. And back to the point earlier about the cars moving up the track. I don't know if they're trying to save tires or if it's out of necessity because the cars are really loose. So maybe they're moving up to make the corner less sharp and a little bit better angle getting through the corner so that the cars aren't spinning out when they get loose.
Guys, we got a battle brewing for the race lead. To talk to Jim's point about comers and goers, we got someone moving on up, and that's the number 83 of Greg Evans. Tried to go underneath the 51 of Mitch Brown there in turn number 1 and 2, but was unable to do so. We're riding on board with him here. I believe this might possibly be a replay of a little while ago. But those two drivers, there we go. So we're back live, and whoa, look how close Greg Evans gets to the back bumper of Mitch Brown, your reigning Hacksaw PC's Premier Series champion. Oh, so close. Here comes Evans once again, diving his way to the inside in turn number 3. And I gotta say, I think Evans just decided to save his tires a little bit. He knew he would be in the aero wash of Mitch Brown, so he decided to lay back. But now he's full on in that aero wash, that aero push behavior on the front end of the number 83 machine, trying to get some clean air on the nose. You see him ducking underneath Mitch Brown right there. And Greg, getting clean air on the nose of these race cars is oh so important, especially when you're battling for the race lead.
And we've seen what that clean air can do. When Greg Evans can get up and get his nose in clean air, he pulls right up to the side of Mitch Brown and they're door-to-door. However, Brown able to use that outside lane to really kind of give him a big shot off the corner exit. We'll see it here as Evans now going a little bit higher on Mitch Brown. So we'll see what it does here off of turn number 2 as Evans kind of dives down a little bit and comes right up on the back bumper of Mitch Brown going into turn number 3, peeking his nose high. And Peter, when you're peeking your nose high on corner exit, are you trying to actually set up a pass, or are you kind of just trying to figure out a way, maybe get the guy in front of you a little bit loose and see if you can cause him to make a mistake, or is he actually trying to make a move?
When you're faster than the car in front of you, you want to be everywhere your car in front of you is not, because that gives you the best opportunity to maybe do a little move on the car in front of you, catch him out a little bit. But here comes Evans to the inside once again, pulls up right alongside him. I think this is the furthest we've seen Greg Evans up on the number 51 machine. Coming out of turn number 4, though, unable to keep that run as Mitch really pinched down Greg coming out of the corner there. But I'm always a fan of kind of running where the car in front of you isn't. Especially if you feel like you're a little bit faster, you can get a little bit better run off, you can cut underneath them, do whatever to try and make that move stick, as well as get that clean air on the nose, which is very, very important. But I gotta say, Jim, this is what sim racing is all about. It's all about this gamesmanship. They're playing chess with one another. Evans is really trying to make a pass here, but just can't do so.
Oh, he lays the virtual bumper to him. Yes, absolutely. Sim racing, esports racing, whatever you want to call it, that's what it's all about here. You're going to see side drafting just like you do on Sundays on TV. You're going to see all kinds of action here as these guys battle this one out. You're going to hear a couple terms that you probably haven't heard at an actual race. We'll be going through those as the race goes on. We'll wait until those opportunities present themselves, and we'll get there here shortly. So enjoy the battle up front between Mitch Brown and Greg Evans. There's no love lost between these two drivers. They've had a few run-ins in the preseason events and earlier in the season. So This will be a really good battle to watch as the whole race goes on.
Guys, I'm looking at some of the drivers dropping back. Will Worcester is one of those drivers. He's dropped down to the 10th position, seeing some right side, right front damage on that car. I can only think he's gotten into the outside wall, which is affecting that car just a little bit. Meanwhile, Kelsey Rogers has got himself up into the top 3. Good run for him. We do have a car on pit road as of right now, trying to figure out which car it might be. It's Jonathan Holstein in the number 73 machine. He's got some right side damage. And Edward Bray in the 66 also coming down pit road. Remember, Bray is only 5 markers off the points lead in that number 66, but he has not quite had the night he's been looking for so far here at Hotlanta as he rolls on through pit road right now. We got this battle. There's the number 7 of John Jenkins battling with Troy Haight. That's a fair. Whoa, Edward Bray in the grass right now. Go. Just saw him for a brief second. I think he got on the throttle a little bit too fast. Just lit him up a little bit. Went rally crossing there. We'll see this right here on the 3-wide TV replay. Just lit up the tires right about there. Yep, there he goes. In through the grass, cutting the grass for the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm sure they'll be happy. But Bray has yet to return to the racetrack, folks. He's still down there on the apron, so maybe a little bit more wrong with the number 66 machine, which is going to be a tough break as we see the number 7 and the number 23. It looks like these two drivers stuck together, and these two drivers as well stuck together as Greg Evans still behind the number 51 and Mitch Brown. So that's a tough battle for the race lead still going on. But right now your top 6 really kind of sorting out. Tyler Seville getting up into the 7th position. And that's, you know, decent run for Tyler so far. He qualified 6th, now still running 7th. But out of that top group, Michael Krobach, got to talk about him. He started 17th. He's now up into 8th in the HPPSimulation.com Ford Mustang. Great to see Krobach up there. And Jim, we've seen some great runs out of Michael. He just hasn't seemed to be able to pull it all together here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series to get to victory lane in a while. But he really is one of those drivers who kind of quietly gets himself a good finish all the time.
Absolutely, and Michael is one of the smartest drivers on the track. He's actually pretty high up in both of the development series points. I think he's leading both currently. But what you see out of him is a very smart, very well planned out race, an engineered race, if you will. And you usually see his car in one piece towards the end of the race and moving on up. So as he battles on, he'll be going there. Oh, wow. We got a replay here. 23 through the infield grass. Oh, he did a little Baja in there.
Oh, man.
These aren't rallycross cars.
He might have hit the pit road there, and he's on pit road again. He had to step on the binders to get to pit road. Not quite sure if this is a penalty, because that would have been an unsafe pit road for Jackson Van Valkenburg. So I'm sure he's going to get a penalty for this. In fact, he's in his pit box right now. Whoa. Man, that is tight. He was able to hold on to the race car, but that's the good news. Bad news is he's sitting in his pit box right now getting tires changed. But here comes the number 22 machine on pit road. Michael Whiting, the cone. All right, everyone, F in the chat for the cone. Pay your respects. We'll have to see whether or not Michael Whiting gets a penalty for that. But one of the things that you see at this racetrack because of all the tire wear is how difficult it is to get to pit road. And Greg, races can be won or lost getting down pit lane. Well, we might have lost Greg Rentz here for a brief moment. But Jim, I'll ask the same question to you. Getting to pit road is very difficult, especially at a track like this, and things can be won or lost on pit road. You know, do you practice more for getting to pit road?
Absolutely. The higher that the tire wear is at a racetrack, the more that you have to practice that entry to pit road. And you can't practice it on 2 or 3 lap old tires. You got to wait until you have 30 lap old tires because you're not going to pit with 2 or 3 laps on your tires. So it changes everything. A race like this is going to be won or lost on pit road and really on the entry. Oh, we got some trouble getting on pit road for a few others.
Yeah, I think Mitch Brown, your race leader on pit road, as well as the number 34, Kelsey Rogers. Kelsey Rogers getting on pit road nice and neatly. Oh, here comes Greg Evans in the number 83 machine on pit road this time. And, did I see Mitch Brown slide, almost hit the inside wall? He did get into pit road. He drifted the number 51 machine getting in his pit box. We also saw maybe the number 1 machine going backwards. I don't know. It was an interesting run into pit road for a couple of drivers. Nick Curling overshot his pit box significantly. He's reversing to his pit box. He's finally found his crew, able to get 4 fresh tires on it. So we'll see how this all cycles through. But right now, your race leader is the number 57 of Craig Stykes, running the Slice Perky Pints machine right there. Going through turn number 1 and 2. We'll see whether or not he gets to pit road. But this has been a very eventful cycle right now. Lots of cars having issues getting down pit road. In fact, I think the number 22 of Michael Whiting, I think he just went down pit road. Didn't even come into his pit box in the Brookside Equipment Sales Machine after he hit that cone. There's Adam Jersky. Oh, man, that's the number 86 of Todd Kirkwood having a moment. Here comes the 77 of Giese on pit road, it looks like. Let's see what happened to Kirkwood here. And, just looks like he might have just got on the brakes a little bit too much rear brake bias. Almost hit the inside wall.
Early. He might have downshifted a little bit early there and just kind of lost traction with the back tires. But I'll tell you what, geometrically, this is not one of the hardest pit roads to get on. The geometry of it's really nice. It's really easy. But on worn tires and after spending that time out on the old Atlanta asphalt, it can be a real difficult time trying to find your way to pit road. And then on those cold tires, trying to get back up to speed and get the speed and maximize that outlap makes it even harder. You can see just the sheer difference that these cars that are on new tires versus the old tires have with the amount of time being lost by these guys that are staying out.
So the interesting thing that I've seen out there now is the fact that we got some cars on fresh tires, some cars on old tires, and just the sheer speed differential. You see the number 51 and the number 83. This would be eventually the battle for the race lead once things all cycle through. But there are some major speed differentials out there right now. There's your race leader right now who's yet to pit, Craig Stykes. He's looking back at the number 51 machine of Mitch Brown. Look at that car. Looks like an absolute rocket ship. We're 3 wide here on the front stretch. 51 on the inside, 83 around the outside. Your race leader, Craig Stykes, in the middle. And I believe the number 83 is going to make that move work. Greg Evans going to get around Mitch Brown. What a move, Greg.
2 seconds difference between Stykes and Brown, along with Greg Evans there. 2 seconds of a difference with the new tires versus the old tires, and you just saw it right in front of you, the visual of what 2 seconds faster a lap looked.
Yeah, that is a huge time differential. Now the 57 finally coming down to pit road as we get ever so close to the 50 lap mark. Will be the 1/3 race distance, and I think he finally realized, hey, I just got to come down pit road. I'm losing too much time out here on the racetrack. Your eventual race leader, once this all cycles through, will be Greg Evans, but he is currently being scored down in the 19th position at the stripe. There he is. There's Mitch Brown right behind him. A lot of cars to pass to get back to the race lead. Go ahead, Jim.
That has flipped with Evans now in front of Brown. So Evans, now here's how that could have happened. We haven't been watching those cars the entire time. So the 83 car got on pit road a little bit better than the 51 and off of pit road a little bit better than the 51. And there's the difference right there. He's now the leader, the 51 now in second. Yes, that's right. The 51 had little difficulties on getting off of pit road. So quite the wild stop, and we'll see how it all shakes out and how everything goes as the laps continue on. I guess it's a good time to talk about what's coming up here next week at the Homestead Miami Speedway, which is a true 1.5 mile oval.
Yeah, and Homestead, Miami, always a great racetrack to go to, and the variable banking on that racetrack has put on some great races in real life as well as in the iRacing simulator. We got a bunch of cars coming down pit road this time. Mark Cohn on pit road, Troy Haight, John Jenkins, Tyler Seville on pit road, Michael Krobach in his pit box. Just a ton of cars coming down pit road all of a sudden. And I gotta say, Jim, this is at the, whoa boy, who is that? That's the number 1 machine, Jason Stewart. That might be a disqualification for reversing on pit road. Looks like iRacing hasn't given him the black flag yet, so I guess he's okay. But man, oh man, he completely overshot his pit box. Guess he didn't realize he was down there at the end of pit road. That is the hardest pit box to get into, Jim, those right down there at the end of pit lane.
Absolutely. That is really tough. You got to slow down your speed, really. Get all checked up, ready to go. And then you have to make an immediate left-hand turn and stop. And we're talking, you're going around this place at a pretty good click every lap. So even 2 seconds off the pace, you're still going pretty fast. And then you got to get down to pit road speed and an immediate left and then stop in that pit box. So very difficult there. And we saw with the number 1 how difficult it really is.
So Brian Miazik in the number 55 machine has come down pit road. So that will cycle things back to the number 83 and the number 51. But we are going to step away for just a brief moment so we can crank it up here on 3 Wide TV.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and SERVPRO.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Quick video there from our friends over at SERVPRO. Of course, they are supporting the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown. And speaking of SERVPRO, we got that man right there, Shane Parrish, currently circling around the racetrack in the 3rd position. He is currently quite a bit off the pace in that car, but he is being scored in the 3rd position thanks to a little bit of pit strategy. there he is. He's actually 7.6 seconds behind your race leader, who is now Greg Evans after things cycled through. Mitch Brown sitting in second. Craig Stykes in the number 57 sitting in the fourth position. But Shane Parrish right now made a good strategy call in that number 81 machine. All the other cars around him have kind of slowed up a little bit, and over the last 5 laps, he's, pretty much on pace with the cars in front of him, Greg Evans and Mitch Brown. Craig Stykes a little bit faster. Remember, Craig Stykes, one of the last cars to pit, but some good pit strategy and good pit stops out of the SERVPRO number 81 machine. And Jim, we saw the number 81 machine have some awesome pit stops back when we were at Daytona. That whole SERVPRO team knew how to get pit stops done back there.
Absolutely. They really can get the pit stops done. They have great race strategy, and I expect to see them up front. In 2 weeks, we're headed to Shane Parrish's home state of Texas for the first race at the new reconfigured Texas Motor Speedway. And, man, I cannot wait to see that race here on 3Wide TV.
Yeah, getting to go to the new Texas Motor Speedway, the reconfigured track. I haven't yet to turn any laps on it, but it's my home NASCAR track as well, being from the state of Texas myself. So it will be pretty cool to see that, and these ASRS drivers always put on a show in 2 weeks' time in Texas, and next week, of course, Homestead. So Homestead is actually Carlos Custom's home track, so going to a couple of home tracks here for the 3Wide TV broadcasters here. But going back to the racetrack, there is the number 10 machine, Nick Curling. He's running in currently the 8th position because he's being battled for that spot by the number 85, Eric Stanford. Stanford trying to get up into 7th. Cody Spiker right in front of him. So Eric Stanford, another one of those SERVPRO machines, working his way up in towards the top 5. He will take 7th position from Curling, and he's a little bit faster than Cody Spiker, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if that 85 machine doesn't move up into the 6th position here shortly. But hopefully we've got Greg back. Greg, are you back? Well, maybe not. So this race continues on. Got some good battles right here. Good gaggle of cars here, Jim. From now the 6th position back through Michael Krobach. Remember, Krobach was one of those cars to pit a little bit later. He's working his way through the field. Oh, very, very tight there. Whoa, that was very close. Boy, oh boy. Almost our first caution of the race, but we have almost gotten to the halfway distance. We got one car coming off pit road. That's Ron Shute. And Ron in that number 20 machine finally back out there on the racetrack, currently being scored 11 laps down. He's unfortunately got that damage earlier when he hit the inside wall. What could have been our first caution. You see all those cars going around him. But one thing I'm really noticing, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, Jim, was just we got cars on different strategies, and we're still seeing some major speed differentials in a lot of these cars.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of that as the race goes on here at Atlanta because of the difference in tires. So some of these guys are on about 10-lap fresher tires than other drivers. On the flip side, the guys are on 10-lap older tires. So you see a huge difference as the race goes on and as the strategies play out. Some of these guys, I believe, are on a 3-stop strategy. Others are on a 2-stop strategy. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. I don't know. About 20 laps from now, we'll see more on pit road probably. Really quick note there. He's driven away from the pack that we're watching on TV. Actually, you see him right there in the lead. John Jenkins, one of my SERVPRO spotlights here tonight. He's our points leader in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series.
Yeah, that number 7 machine already taking 1 win this year in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series back at Las Vegas. And let's see if we can go through the field and we'll highlight some of the other drivers. Oh, we got, wait, no, I think that was just a little bit of connection issues. I saw smoke in turn number 3 and 4, got my octaves up there a little bit. But right now your race leader is the number 83 machine of Greg Evans. He's already got a win to his name this year in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. Carolina Simworks Chevrolet got around the number 51 with a 3-wide pass. Also on the number 57 on the front stretch. Crazy move. But Greg Evans has been able to check out just a little bit. He's now up to a 1.9 second lead, and he is already putting cars 1 lap down. There's 22 cars left on the lead lap. Right behind him, Mitch Brown in the number 51 machine was your early race leader. But that number 51 machine, after losing out to Greg Evans, he slid just a little bit back, but not to panic yet for Mitch Brown. Had a crazy pit road entrance, which probably did put him into a little bit of panic. But for now, Mitch Brown running in second. And Jim, why don't you take away the number 81 of Shane Parrish?
Yeah, Shane Parrish right there in third. Little bit of creative pit strategy, as we did not see him up in the top 5 before the pit stop, but an excellent pit stop and an excellent strategy has moved that number 81 SERVPRO forward into the 3rd position. Craig Stykes in the 57 sits in 4th. Now, he sat on the track there for several laps on the older tires and was a little bit off the pace by doing so. Lost a little bit of ground, but he's only 9 seconds behind Greg Evans with a little fresher tires, so we'll see in the long run how that all pays off. Jordan Harnish rounds out the top 5. Not really sure where Jordan Harnish comes from, as to be honest, I haven't seen the 32 car all night long.
Yeah, well, that number 32 machine is in the 5th position, running pretty good. Right behind him, John Jenkins, highlighted him just a minute ago. He has made some moves. I highlighted him earlier in the race saying, man, he's kind of around the 13th, 14th position. I thought he'd be a little bit higher, but he has now worked his way up into 6th. But he does have the number 11 of Tyler Seville right behind him. Both the 7 and the 11 have about 10 lap fresher tires than your race leaders of Greg Evans and Mitch Brown, so they're slowly closing in on them. But it'll be interesting to see how these strategies play out. They are about 11.7 seconds behind. I gotta say, kind of seeming like a good strategy right now, the 2-stopper versus the 3-stopper, but only time will tell how it works out there. Seville in the number 11 right behind him. Michael Krobach just outside this picture running in 8th. But Jim, these 3 drivers kind of working together, lockstep, in tandem with one another. We're trying to get their way forward.
Yeah, you see Michael Krobach right there in the 8th position. Now we flip over to Brian Yazik, the Loud Pedal Motorsports teammate there in the 9th position, that number 55. And then Eric Stanford in the 85, the SERVPRO Ford, sits in the 10th position. Another one of my SERVPRO spotlights, Woody Bahan, sits in 11th. That number 84 car has had, up until tonight, has had to qualify into each of these races on time, has done it, made his way up high enough in the points by doing so that he had a locked-in spot tonight and should roll into the 6th race of the season next week at the Homestead Miami Speedway with a locked-in spot. We'll have to see how Woody and the 84 machine do here tonight. Also, Troy Haight in the 12th position in that number 28. Talked about him way back at the beginning, some zigging and zagging going on around him, and well, he's in 12th currently here as we're almost to halfway.
Almost to halfway, just about one more lap. Cody Spiker is in the 13th position. That's exactly where he qualified in that Snap-on number 19. He's put together some decent runs here recently in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, and once again backing that up with a 13th place run so far in tonight's race. There's the number 10 machine, Nick Curling, down in 14th. That's a little bit further back from where we saw him earlier in that Sim Lab machine, possibly due to a little bit of pit lane mishaps, but solidly on the lead lap in that 14th position. Right behind him is Will Worcester, and you see that right front damage on that number 29 machine. Qualified up in the top 5, and really once Will has got that damage, he's only been sliding back now 17.5 seconds behind the race leader, and he's kind of in that management mode, I think, Jim, just trying to get to possibly a caution to get a lot of that damage fixed.
Boy, I've been there a lot in my days. Jared Haggerty sits in the 16th position, having a nice quiet race with the Cheerwine number 6. So good to see that. And then Mark Cohn, he's in 17th place. The last time we saw him here on 3Wide TV, he made it about 10 feet after the start-finish line and had a big wreck on the initial start of the race. So good to see Mark Cohn with a solid run, sitting in 17th. Jimmy McKee, who had to serve an end-of-the-line penalty at the beginning of the race, in the 18th position in that number 8. Again, a nice quiet race. And then Alan Young just kind of lurking back there in the 19th position in his number 24 machine. Again, nice and quiet. Haven't heard anything out of these guys, good or bad. They're right there in the middle of the pack and just kind of riding it out here as we have just passed halfway. Richard Stallings rounds out our top 20 in the number 17. And let me tell you what, if you want to sponsor a car that's going to get your logo and your name out there, this number 17 of Richard Stallings is one of the cars to get onto. Look at those nice blank quarter panels. Well, they're not so nice, But check them out. They're blank. He's looking for sponsorship. And if you're looking for a driver to sponsor that's going to get you on TV, Richard Stallings is definitely your guy with that number 17 Chevy.
Yeah, Richard has definitely put together some great runs as we got some 3-wide action here. Jackson Van Valkenburg on the top. There's the number 34 machine right in the middle of it. Kelsey Rogers in that car. And Kelsey, he was running in third earlier, guys, and he must have had some issue. He's coming down pit road as we speak in that number 34 car. And whoa, having a whale of it. Whoa, Kelsey Rogers still trying to get that car woed down. I was trying to see if he might have had a speeding penalty or something like that because he was so high up earlier in the race. Now down in the mid-20s, and he's finally rolled to a stop. I'm not too sure that he got down to pit road speed as well when he got to the line. And Jim, I know you mentioned it earlier that this pit road is not too difficult to get into based on its geometry. Yeah, there's no way Kelsey Rogers got down to the pit road speed. I'm expecting to see a penalty here on that car. But it's just such a high speed differential. You're going from 170, 180 miles an hour or so all the way down to 45 miles an hour on pit road. Just so difficult to get the car woed up in time for those yellow cones.
Absolutely. There is no grip down there on the apron. There's no rubber stuck to the asphalt. It's just purely 23-year-old asphalt down there. And it is really tough to get slowed down, especially with worn tires. When you have no grip in those, the pavement down there has no grip as well. So it's just a no grip situation. Nobody's going to win on that battle. One note to make: driver in 30th position, the number 4 of JR Bash, making his season debut, has failed to qualify for the first 4 races and made it here at race number 5 in Atlanta. So happy to see JR rolling out there in the number 4 machine, and happy to have him as part of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series.
Yeah, great to see JR Bash out there on the racetrack here tonight, sporting the Center Shot Outfitters machine. Right now being scored in the 30th position, 2 laps down. There is the number 28, Troy Haight, going down the back stretch right now. And Troy Haight solidly in the 11th position, right behind Woody Mahan. And we got a car down on the apron. That is Todd Kirkwood fighting with all the buildup of rubber that has made its way to the bottom of the racetrack. This track, of course, notorious for eating through tires and leaving lots of marbles all the way around it. And we're starting to see that build up down there.
Mitch Brown just about lost it out of turn 2 there. That car was sideways on the apron, and I believe he saved.
Oh, yeah, he hit the wall there, Jim. He saved it, but I'm just wondering how much damage to the right side of that number 51 machine is now there. That could significantly hurt Mitch Brown's chances. He's now 3 seconds behind your race leader, Greg Evans. He's still 4 seconds ahead of Shane Parrish, but if that damage has done any significant damage to the aerodynamics of that Toyota Camry, he will fall into the clutches of the number 81 SERVPRO Ford Mustang of Shane Parrish here before all too long, as we are now closing in on the 100 lap mark, which I know, oh man, I think we just had another car hit the wall. The 73 of Holstein here on the front stretch. I think he might have just clipped the wall on entry into the corner. In fact, he did. So Holstein suffering down there in the 32nd position. Not the night he was looking for. But as of right now, we got 19 cars on the lead lap. Last car on the lead lap is currently held by Richard Stallings. He's 29.3 seconds behind your race leader. There he is. Right in front of him, though, is the number 3 machine of James Lorello. That's a battle for position. And I mentioned it at the start of the night that this racetrack and these cars out there would start to look a little bit like Darlington. And let me tell you, there's a lot of cars that have a crinkled in right side. So that is holding true so far. But all is good right now for the 83 of Greg Evans.
Yeah, definitely a lot of right side damage. A lot of cars that have brushed the wall, scraped the wall, hit the wall. There's several different ways that we can call it, but they've made contact with that outside safer barrier. So it's been a rough night for right side doors, right side body panels, but really good racing. Who would have thought that we'd be 85 laps into this, 86 laps now into it, without a caution. Just great racing. The cars are even looking really dirty, like they were at Darlington, where the paint starts to wear off of them and the rubber builds up on the front of them. So we're getting a lot of that as these guys are really hanging on. And to be honest, I'm surprised nobody has wrecked just yet. We've had several incidents. We just haven't had a wreck that's brought out a caution so far. And we're past halfway, so this could be really interesting how it will play out with pit strategy and such as we get closer to lap 100.
Jim, I can tell you what a lot of these drivers are thinking right now. Erasing strikes. They want to get down below that threshold where their strikes get erased. Of course, there is a penalty system that is involved with the American Sim Racing Series and the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, and that's a strike system. These drivers, if they accrue a couple of strikes in a couple of races, they actually get suspended. We did have a few suspensions this week, Jim, for some of the drivers who accrued strikes from last week's event, which I know they're really disappointed to sit on the sidelines. But good news is we are caution-free from the first half of this race, and if it stays caution-free, I'm sure a lot of those strikes will get erased.
Absolutely, and there are a few things that are different in the online racing world, and particularly this league, but in online racing versus actual physical racing. And one of them is that in online racing, there is no cost repair or car repair. You're not going to have to pay to fix the car after it gets wrecked. So guys race a little differently than they would if they were paying the bills to repair the car. Also, there's no danger of really getting hurt, which is really interesting because you could go and hit the wall at 200 miles an hour, hit the reset button, and you got a new car. Of course, this league doesn't have fast repairs. Some leagues do, some races do.
Guys, sorry to cut in,
race
but
tomorrow.
Mitch Brown in second just pulled into the pits into number 51, and he had to wound it down going on to pit road. Second place, Mitch Brown just almost lost it off turn number 4, trying to get on the pit road. He had lost 3 seconds to Greg Evans. He is on pit road after hitting that.
Yeah, so maybe we're starting to see some drivers take their second pit stop here tonight. Looks like he's dragging down Jimmy McKee on pit road as we speak. Jackson Van Valkenburg in the number 23 machine also looks like he has joined the pit road. There he is. Unfortunately, he is multiple laps down. There he is rolling onto the racetrack right now. He had a very long stop, presumably a penalty on Jackson Van Valkenburg's machine. Mitch Brown, however, getting left side tires as we speak. He's going to get out of his pit box with no speeding penalty unless he speeds on exit, which I'm sure he'll keep that car woed under the 50 mile an hour speed limit. It is 50 miles an hour, not quite 45 as I said earlier. Oh, we got another car coming down pit road. Looks like that's the number 32 machine, Jordan Harnish, coming down pit road. So second round of pit stops here starting maybe a little bit early. Mitch Brown thinking I'm going to go off strategy from your race leader, the number 83 of Greg Evans, see if he can make up some of that time. But now Mitch Brown all of a sudden will be like a rocket man out there on the racetrack. Let's see if we can ride on board with Mitch Brown with those 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, because he's going to be passing cars left and right here, trying to make up as much time as possible. Here we go, on board with him going off into turn number 1.
And the real danger there for Mitch is not the tire wear right now. It is the cars that are off the pace. He's about 2 seconds faster than the other cars that are on older tires. And he just doesn't want to run into anybody. There's cars scattered all over the track, running all kinds of different lines. And he's catching these cars pretty well so far. But what you see is that Mitch Brown is catching them, and he's having to change his line. That's not good for tire conservation as the race goes on. And it's got to absolutely be driving Mitch crazy in that 51.
Got another few takers on pit road. Craig Stykes in the 57 Slice Porcupines machine. He's going to bring that car to his pit box. Qualified this race in second, so his pit box is all the way down at the end of pit road. You see right sides going on. But all of a sudden, we're seeing those second round.
Guys,
Go
I'm
ahead,
keeping
Jim.
my eye on Mitch Brown as he way through this traffic. The car that he's trying to chase down is the 38 of Nick Gardner. He's about half a straightaway ahead of him right now. That's the one he's trying to track down position-wise on the track. He has broke back into the top 20 because of cycling through pit road, but he's trying to track down the 38 of Nick Gardner, and he is catching him in a hurry. There you see right there what you guys were talking about, the difference Ford Fresh Goodyear Eagles makes as opposed to some that have been around the Atlanta Speedway for a while, as he just blew the doors off the 38. Mitch Brown in the number the 51 is up to the 16th position. However, guys, as he continues to put these away and these guys in front of him stay out, that's opening the door for them to be able to have the advantage on Mitch Brown the longer they stay out. So if you're the leader, Greg Evans, and you know that, hey, Mitch Brown, the guy who's been with you the whole race, pitted about 5 laps ago, how long do you want to try to stay out there? And while it's affecting you now, yes, it'll have the advantage later on in the race the longer he stays out. How long would you guys stay out if you're in that number 83 car right now?
I'll tell
Not
you
very.
what. Yeah, not very. Jim, you said it. Here he comes down pit road, right behind Jackson Van Valkenburg, who is back on pit road in the number 23 machine, possibly having some issues with that car, and that's why he's going to get back to his pit box. But here comes your race leader, got on pit road nice and neatly, 50 miles an hour for the Carolina Simworks Chevrolet. And oh man, I'm gonna come back and seeing the number 23 slide to his pit box and slide onto pit road. That was quite interesting to see right in front of the race leader. I'm sure Greg had thoughts about that, but nonetheless, he's going to get into his pit box nice and neatly, and we'll see how it cycles through. Evans rolling out of his pit box right now and onto the racetrack, and Mitch Brown's gone, folks. Mitch Brown's already coming out of turn number 2 right now, and Greg Evans is halfway between turn number 1 and 2, not even at speed. So that is the difference that clean, fresh tires makes. Now, Greg Evans has the fresher tires. Now it's over to that number 83 to run down the number 51 and Mitch Brown here in the closing laps. I think, personally, folks, that we're done for pit stops for both Mitch Brown and Greg Evans, but only time will tell. Shane Parrish looks like he has also joined the pit road team because he has now fallen well down the running order in that SERVPRO machine, so we'll see him slowly work his way up through the field. But as of right now, we're up to 23 cars on low. 85 had to back up there just a little bit, and that Eric Stanford having a good run here tonight in that car. There's the number 39 on pit road, driven by Mark Cohn. And we haven't really mentioned Mark Cohn except for going through the field. And Jim, you know, Mark's been kind of on the periphery trying to break in. Well, he finally broke in tonight. He's put together a pretty good run.
Sorry, guys. The 83 of Greg Evans was trying to get around the lap car, and he slid sideways. He was drifting through turn 2, made the save, but he lost ground trying to get back up to the 51 of Mitch Brown. The 83 of Greg Evans, the dominant car, was able to save it, but he had a big slide there.
Guys, I think that is the worst case of netcode I have seen in a long time.
Yes, and let's explain netcode. Let's explain netcode to the folks at home that have never watched an esports or sim race. So netcode is where there's internet connections and there's a glitch between the two internet connections. So iRacing Simulation Package allows it to assume where the two cars are while their connections are not perfectly paired up. So when that happens, you may not see the car make contact, but the sim assumes that it makes contact and sends the car around. You see smoke, you see cars flying all over the place, you see all kinds of crazy things happen. And it's a really interesting thing. It's one of those elements of online racing that just seems to happen. It's never been able to be wiped out completely. And it's just one of those things that we have to deal with on a weekly basis. So I was going to talk about that with side drafting, but we just got a prime example of it right here.
Something that wasn't netcode. James Lorello, the race leader, was coming into the pit road. Mitch Brown was coming on him, and right as Lorello backed off, Mitch Brown ran in the back of him and sent him down pit road. That was the pass for the lead, but Mitch Brown ran into the back of Lorello right as Lorello backed up for entry. So suddenly, both the top guys have had issues within a couple laps of each other. Brown out now to a 5-second lead over Evans, but Evans had that squeal there with the tires. Brown now has significant more damage on the right front of that 51 car.
Boy, oh boy, how things change here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. They happen fast here at Hotlanta. Greg Evans still running down Mitch Brown. I'm sure Mitch is going to be oh so upset with all that damage on the front end of that Toyota Camry. We'll have to see how that affects the pace of that car, or whether or not we'll start to see some of these other drivers start to close in on your lead too. That man right there, Brian Yazik, in the number 55 car. He has 12 laps on his tires in the HPCPCS.com Ford. And I'll tell you what, Yazik, currently over the last 5 laps, he's been faster than Mitch Brown. Hasn't been as fast as Greg Evans, but Yazik definitely faster than Mitch Brown. 9 seconds back behind that number 51 machine here with 45 laps to go. And guys, really interesting race so far. No cautions if you're just now joining us. I want to give a shout out to some of the people that we have in the chat here tonight. We do, of course, have Ann Cappy joining us. I'm sure she's enjoying this race. We've got Doug Mullins in the chat as well. Nikki Worsler, as always. Roll Film Productions, how you guys doing here tonight? As well as a couple of other people. We had AJ Digby say, how's it going, folks? Gail 78 as well. So make sure you make yourself heard. We got Jackson watching from South Georgia. How's it going, Jackson? Burnett Motorsports, Braden Burnett as well. So come on, folks, make yourself heard. Give us a shout here on 3YTV. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see videos similar to this one. But definitely a good race here tonight. Yet to see a caution. There's the number 7 machine, John Jenkins, running in the 8th position. And John's tires are 8.5 laps old. He's got some of the freshest tires out there on the racetrack right now, so he's making the most of them, starting to make some moves now, getting around Cody Spiker up into 7th. Next car in front of him is 4th position. John Jenkins will assume the 6th position if he can get around Craig Stykes, and Jordan Harnish is a 5th position. So John Jenkins starting to move his way forward as these laps wind down, but Jim, no surprise there.
Not at all, but we have a battle brewing for the lead. Here comes Greg Evans to the inside of Mitch Brown. Now, when Brown got that damage on the front end with the 3 car coming to pit road, and just a couple of laps earlier, the 83 had slid through the corner, or drifted through the corner. I was worried about them both. I don't know if they both are going to be able to have longevity here at the end of this run and the speed to be there. But I am really surprised that the 83 has made up the speed that he has, made up the time that he has with the speed. And then the damage on the 51 doesn't seem to be affecting it too much. But now, as I say that, the 51 drops off considerably, and Greg Evans opens up a nice gap.
Yeah, well, so now the big question will be whether or not Mitch Brown can actually run down the number 55, or excuse me, the number 55 of Brian Yazik can run down the number 51 of Mitch Brown here in the closing laps, because Yazik is about 8 seconds back behind Mitch Brown. Michael Krobach, one of the other HPPSimulations.com machine, he's now running in 4th. So Yazik and Krobach, 3rd and 4th, couple of teammates there. John Jenkins did make his way up into the top 5. Keeping an eye on last lap time to kind of see who's fast out there on the racetrack. No surprise, Greg Evans, one of the faster cars. John Jenkins, Shane Parrish also running very quick lap times. Parrish in 7th right now, just behind Craig Stykes. Parrish quickly closing in on Stykes' machine. Last time by Parrish, about 0.4 of a second faster than the Sliced Porcupines number 57. So the SERVPRO machine of Parrish doing good work here in the first round of the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown. Well, we got a big gaggle of cars there. Oh, there's the number 7, Jenkins, trying to get around Krobach. This is a battle for 4th. Jenkins really on a tear here, running sub 31-second lap times. I know that doesn't sound anything crazy versus what we saw in qualifying, but at this point in the run, very quick lap times out of the super clean Toyota Camry. Now trying to get around Brian Yazik for the 3rd position. This would put Jenkins on the podium here in just a few laps. I think he's got the pace to do it. You can see quite visibly that super clean car is faster. But Greg here in the closing laps, a couple of pit strategies going all haywire all over the racetrack. We've seen comers and goers, but this race looking like Greg Evans might just take the win here as we eclipse 1 hour in the race.
If this race stays green, it's going to be hard for anyone to get up there to Greg Evans. However, if we get a caution, I like what I'm seeing out of this number 7 car of John Jenkins. He made quick work of both Jasek and Krobach. And guys, Mitch Brown is falling off significantly. It has gone from 0.7 seconds to 3.2 seconds here, just in the amount of time that it took Jenkins to get around Krobach and Jasek. So the 7 of Jenkins heating up at the right time, whereas Mitch Brown is really starting to struggle. That damage is starting to really affect the aero of that 51 car. I don't know if Jenkins has enough time to get up to Greg Evans if we stay green, because the lead has stayed right around 9.5, 9.6. It's 9.8. Let's see what it is this time. 9.4. So we cut 0.4 of a second off. But if this race goes yellow, I like what I'm seeing out of this number 7 car. However, would you pit 4 tires if we get a yellow here late in the going? How many more tires can these guys take?
If you have a set of tires left, heck yeah, you're going to take them. This track eats through tires so quickly. And of course, last week at Phoenix Raceway, when we saw a couple of cautions come out, the race started to get pretty crazy. So cautions, and hopefully we can stay caution-free. We're going to step away here for just a brief moment for a quick commercial. Be right back here on 3Y TV.
Yeah, it's a big mess. But don't worry, cleanup's already underway.
When the things that matter most are on the line, make sure we are too. The disaster recovery team at 1-800-SERVPRO. Like it never even happened.
And we're back at the Atlanta Motor Speedway after that message from SERVPRO. Like it never even happened. SERVPRO now sanitizing for the coronavirus. So check out your local SERVPRO if you have a need, as they are presenting the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown here tonight, as we're race number 1 of 10 in that, which is within the ASRS Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. So quite the action here as Greg Evans leads. Mitch Brown still holds down second, but losing ground. And John Jenkins has moved into that 3rd position and is catching the top 2 cars.
Now we're seeing a couple of drivers kind of an alternate strategy come down pit road here, trying to make their final pit stops. Alex Giese in the number 77 machine. What a unfortunate night it has been for Giese. Remember, he had such a great qualifying run in the 77, qualified 4th, but he's back in the 35th position as they run right now, sitting 5 laps down in that machine. I'm sure he now has fresher tires, so hopefully he can make one of those laps back. There's the Holco Intercon machine of Steve Puhala. I haven't really mentioned him tonight as well, as we have a battle for the 4th position brewing. Here comes Shane Parrish in that SERVPRO machine. In fact, now he has eclipsed Brian Jasek, so Parrish will take that position. He's 10.9 seconds behind your race leader, but I'm watching the gap, folks, between Mitch Brown and John Jenkins. It is now down to 4.3 seconds between those cars. Last time by, Jenkins was about 1.5 to 0.2 faster than Mitch Brown, but it's been coming down in chunks. This lap, not so much, but we'll see what that difference is at the line this time by. But John Jenkins in the number 7 machine, very, very quick as he gets passed by the number 33, Tony Schoen, who's on some slightly fresher tires. But guys, this race closing down, and it's been a really good race. It's been very clean, not too many accidents, and I'm sure that's what these drivers wanted to see after a crazy race last week at Phoenix, Jim.
Absolutely. Phoenix was pretty wild. The guys got a long penalty report over the last week, and hopefully they can leave here with a very clean penalty report. But quite the race so far. These guys are really in for a challenge. The other thing we got to talk about, you know, you play the NBA game on the console or the baseball game on the console. You're not like physically dribbling the ball or swinging the bat on those games. These guys are physically turning the steering wheel, using the gas and brake pedal, the clutch, shifting the cars. These guys are physically doing what race car drivers do. And in a 230-mile race, and it's been green all the way, these guys, this is physically demanding for these guys. So we got to talk about a little bit of fatigue as these guys continue on here. You know, these guys, while they are great esports sim racers. They're not race car drivers. I don't know how many of them work out those muscles that they're using here tonight, but they absolutely are getting quite the workout in this 231-mile race.
Yeah, no caution so far to take a breather at all. And Greg, I know we've seen some fairly lengthy races, commentating together, but this being caution-free, are you surprised by this here tonight?
Very surprised, especially with this aero package. I thought early on in the run we were going to see a lot of guys making contact, and I figured cautions were going to be cautions after cautions, but in order for that to happen, you have to have a caution, which we haven't seen yet. So I'm very impressed with the fact that this race has gone caution-free for 125, coming to 126 laps now as Greg Evans crosses to strike the race leader. I'm very impressed with how these guys have been able to do this. And like Jim said, these guys are not race car drivers. These guys are 100% sim racers, and they are doing a fantastic job, especially at a track as difficult as Atlanta Motor Speedway is. The hottest or the fastest track the Cup Series goes to on a blistering hot day. Track temp is going down, though. It is 103 now, and it peaked up around 112 earlier today. But I'm very, very impressed with these drivers and how they've been able to negotiate this 1.5-mile speedway without relatively many problems. We had the occasional scuff up entering pit road and a couple cases of net code, but this has been a very fun race to watch if you like good, clean racing, which of course we here at 3YTV love. And this has just been very, very impressive, especially from this 83 car of Greg Evans. He has been having a stellar run in this 83 car.
Oh, we got trouble. 32 car around and the caution. There's your commentator's curse.
There's the commentator's curse. Jordan Harnish, Kirkwood Transportation Machine going around in turn number 1 and 2. I think he might have got a little bit of help from behind. Ooh, the number 19 there, Cody Spiker, giving him a little bit of a love tap in the wrong spot. And unfortunately, the number 32 machine having a pretty good run here tonight, just outside the top 10, turned up into the outside wall. Heavy damage to the Kirkwood Transportation Toyota Camry. And we are under our first caution of the race with 23 laps to go. And now, folks, bring him on down pit road if you got any tires left down there, because it's going to be a shootout here to the end. That is going to absolutely throw things for a loop. And here comes your race leader, Greg Evans. But I'll tell you what, guys. Jim, we saw this last week. A late race caution led to some chaos. Are you expecting to see some things here tonight? Do you think these drivers learned their lesson last week?
Well, as a league organizer, we hope that they learned their lesson last week. As a race fan, absolutely, I want to see some wild racing. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. We're ready to pretty much engrave the trophy and have it all ready, write out the check to Greg Evans and call it a night. But hey, we got 20 laps to go in this one, little over 20 laps to go, and the top car is on pit road currently. We'll see if Mitch Brown can get any of his damage repaired, and then those fresh tires. Remember, he was about 5 laps older tires than the rest of the field. And then we'll have to see how everything shakes out. If anybody stays out here, man, I don't know. They're kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, Craig Stykes of the number 57 machine, currently staying out there on the racetrack. He has 34 laps on those tires. Not quite sure. He might have stayed out here to just lead a lap. But it's been 34 laps since he was last on pit road. And Greg, we've seen this here tonight. 35 laps on your tires, not going to be all too good. Now, what Craig might be thinking is maybe if we get another caution, with like 5 laps to go, maybe take tires then. What are your thoughts, Greg?
He might be thinking that we are going to get another caution.
Oh, well, he just came down pit road.
Oh, yeah. With this aero package, the first few laps of that green flag run is always hectic, and we've seen it time and time again, and we're about to see it again. So I'm curious how this is all going to unfold here. The final few laps here, it's going to be quite the show. And remember what I mentioned earlier, I liked what I was seeing out of that number 7 of John Jenkins. He was very steadily chipping away at the gap just a little bit between him and Greg Evans. It was big. difference between him and Mitch Brown, how much faster he was than that 51 with that damage. So we're going to take one final break here at 3Y TV, and we are going to set it up. Shootout coming up here for the ASRS here on 3Y TV.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one. 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
And we're back at the Atlanta Motor Speedway after that message from SERVPRO, like it never even happened. And we're under 20 to go, so we're going to go through our SERVPRO 20 to go and talk about some of our drivers that we think have the best chance at winning here tonight. So I'm going to start us off with Greg Evans of the 83. I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit and go with that 83 of Greg Evans. I think he pulls it off here and gets the win.
I'm going to go with the driver currently in the 5th position. That's Brian Yazik, lucky number 55 here tonight. Bright yellow, came away with a win last season in the season finale at Homestead, Miami. I think he gets back to victory lane here tonight, Greg.
I like what I see out of the number 7 of John Jenkins. He was slowly chipping away at Greg Evans. He was really reeling in Mitch Brown. He needed a caution. He got it. I'm keeping my eye on that 7 car as we come.
Pace car lights are off. We're going to get set to go back to green flag racing. Only one caution so far here tonight, but will cautions breed cautions? Don't go anywhere here on 3Y TV because the action is about to go up once again. Pace car down pit road. Green flag in the flagman's hand. There it is. We're back to green flag racing. Great restart from the number 83 machine of Greg Evans. He gets away to about a 3-car length advantage as they head off into turn number 1. Look at John Jenkins going to slide up into the 2nd position. John Jenkins, can he mount a charge for the race lead? Brian Yazik all over the back bumper of the number 81 of Shane Parrish. Parrish throws a block on the backstretch all the way down to the apron. And Brian Yazik had to back out of that move because he was getting boxed in by the number 11 of Tyler Seville. Seville around the outside. Crazy action here on this restart. There's the replay of the 55. Oh, we're under caution. Caution flag once again in the air. The 2nd caution of the night. Christopher in the number 46 around. The number 4 JR Bash. Pete Baskins, James Lorello in the number 3 machine. These are a couple of the cars a little bit further back in the pack, all having issues. We'll have to see exactly what happened. Stouffer has a smoking engine on the number 46 machine. Let's see what happened here. And it happened a little bit in front of him. Looks like JR Bash in the number 4 machine broke loose. And you see a couple of those cars there getting involved. Unfortunately, Richard Fletcher in the 43 Porcupine's machine also involved. Let's see if we can sort that one out, Jim.
Yeah, I believe the 52 got into the back of JR Bash. Might have been a little bit of that netcode that we talked about just a few moments ago. But I would definitely point the finger at the 52. I think he got into the back of the number 4 to trigger that one. Let's go on board with Christopher here. Oh, a hard hit both there into the number 4 and the outside safer barrier. Kudos to the Atlanta Motor Speedway for those safer barriers on the outside.
Yeah, so all of a sudden back under caution, and we see all those cars racing by, and just watch, you're going to see, oh, nope, never mind, we're going to cut away from that, Kim. So, never mind. We are back under the caution flag, pacing around. Let's see if we can possibly interview one of these drivers here under this pacing around. We'll have to sort out who we can pull in. Let's see if we can pull in. Or, I don't know, folks. Let's see if we can pull in the 51 machine of Mitch Brown. Let's see if we can get him in here with a hot mic. That's Mitch Brown's favorite thing when we drag him into the room nice and hot. Mitch Brown, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
Well, man, you got a little bit of damage on that car. You probably think you have more than you've actually got because that contact a little bit earlier was pretty heavy. But, you know, closing laps here. Cautions breed cautions. What are you going to do to see if you can squeak out a victory?
We're just gonna go for it. We gotta feel like if you're the leader, you get such a big an advantage. So if we can get to the lead, you know, I mean, we just got to hold on, but we got to get there first.
How important is clean air on the nose of the race car here tonight?
Oh, it's definitely important. 100%. Definitely helps being up front in the middle of the pack.
Jim or Greg, you guys got any questions for the number 51 of Mitch Brown?
Yeah, Mitch, we saw you got a little contact there with the wall. Then we saw you got into the back of a car coming to pit road. How has that damage affected the handling of your car? And with this aero package, has it made a huge difference, or is it just kind of minimized with the way that the draft is and everything?
I really haven't noticed anything that it hasn't affected my car that much. But, you know, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, it really didn't affect my car. It was a heavy hit, but, you know, that's pretty much it.
Very interesting to hear. Greg, you got any questions for driver number 51?
Mitch, you may have answered it, or kind of, sort of, but with that damage on the right front, is that going to affect you going forward, or are you hoping that the worst is behind you?
I mean, we'll have to see how it is going into turn 1, especially if there's a car outside, especially if, you know, John stays on my outside, see how it is. If it gets a little tight, maybe then it affects my, the down air of the car, but hopefully we can get to either stay in third or get to the lead, because I don't like being on the outside in the restart. Give it such a disadvantage.
Yeah, we saw that you dropped from second back to third on that one, so hopefully you can stay tucked up right behind that number 83, but we'll let you get back to it, buddy. I know we got the closing laps here. Going to probably have about 13 laps when we go back to green flag. Best of luck.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, well, that was the number 51 machine of Mitch Brown. And folks, don't go anywhere. 13 laps or so when we go back to green flag. Pace car lights have turned off. And guys, was there anything under that restart that kind of stuck out to you? I mean, I couldn't believe the block that Shane Parrish threw on Brian Yazek going all the way down there to the apron. I think we're going to see some more crazy stuff there, Jim.
Absolutely. No out of bounds here at Atlanta. You can use, if it's paved, you can use it. If it's not paved and it's grass, you can use it at your own risk. So we're going to see all kinds of crazy things, I think, in the closing laps. And, man, a few of these guys are going to be calling SERVPRO to make it like it never even happened, I'm sure, before it's all said and done. But I want to give a big shout-out. I know Cody Leland from American Regardless is hopefully watching. He was at Bike Week, and that all got canceled. So hope everything's good with Cody and Lacey and everybody over at American Regardless. Remember, check them out at AmericanRegardless.com for the coolest apparel that you can find.
Absolutely. Want to give a shout out to one of the drivers who's relatively new to the Hacksaw Premier Series. He ran a couple races last year, but this is by far probably his best run that he's had. Richard Fletcher in the number 43 machine in the 23rd position. But pace car about to head down pit road right now. Green flag in the flagman's hand. Once again, we're back to green flag racing for the third time here tonight. And it is the number 83 machine. Got a good jump. Mitch Brown unable to keep with them as they head off into turn number 1. That has allowed the number 7 of Jenkins back in behind the number 83. That's not what Mitch Brown wanted to see. He really wanted to get past Jenkins here, but now will Jenkins fight with the number 83 here in the closing laps? Here comes Jenkins. No, backs out of it there at the last second. He definitely thought about it, but to Greg, action heating up all around this racetrack.
Action heating up as Jenkins makes a run, but I didn't get a chance to say I was worried about the 29 of Will Worsler. When that last caution came out, he had to dive down to the apron and was sliding on the apron to avoid running in the back of the car in front of him. I'm worried about how much tire wear got used up on that 29 car during that slide. Doesn't seem to be affecting him yet, as he may have caught in a break, but I was most definitely worried about that 29 car as he's going to work on the 8 car right now of Jimmy McKee right in front of him. Doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much, but I was a little bit worried before that restart on the 29 car.
And of course, whoa, the 11 there, Tyler Seville getting way up out of the groove, trying to do battle with the number 81, made a little bit of contact with Parrish, and now we are 3 wide down the backstretch. Krobach on the bottom, Seville in the middle, Yazek up at the top, and Krobach down there hitting the apron. You see that completely unnerved that number 72 HPPSimulation.com machine. finally slots back in behind the number 85 machine, but that was a crazy moment right up here at the front, and that is because the lap number is winding down, folks. 10 laps to go, Jim.
Absolutely. I'm watching Brian Yazik as he tries to battle around Tyler Seville, who got checked up there in that little incident there with the 81. Tyler has not given up a spot other than the one that he gave up to the 81 car, but Brian Yazik in that 55 has tried high and low and just can't do it. And then right behind him, the 85 car of Eric Stanford is really giving him a headache. He's going high and low, and he's trying what Brian Yazik's trying on the 11 car. And it looks like it is really hard to pass with everybody on the fresh tires in the dirty air. These guys are 4, 5, 6 cars on back, and it looks like they're just struggling to get a run on anybody.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like to me. Just, I think the aerodynamics of this package just preventing being able to make a move. There is a slow car a little bit further up. It's the damaged number 27 machine of Pete Baskins. We'll see what Pete does here as the leaders catch up to him this time by Evans down there on the bottom. Jenkins in. Oh, the 81 and the 51 making contact. Shane Parrish underneath the 51 machine, and there's the slow car. Oh, contact, the 51's going around. Right up here at the front of the 55, and Yazik piles in, and this is a big one. Oh, boy, cars going everywhere, and my, Parrish junked in the 81, the 51 machine. I think he's going to get back going. Not too much damage, but he's going to be well back in the pack, unfortunately. Car's really slowing down, and this is a crazy accident here in the closing laps. We'll probably have a green-white checker. Steve Buhala in the 12 getting involved. But, boy, oh boy, that they had the slow car right there on the racetrack, and it looks like there was not enough room on the racetrack.
That was very similar to Clarence Bonner's wreck last week at Phoenix, where they were coming up on a lap car. He tried to turn down the track, and there was a car there. 51 car was on the outside. There was the slower car, the 27, just ahead. He tried to come down. Believe they made contact. Then the 81 got loose, and around went the 51. And quite the pile up here in the late going in Atlanta. Boy, it was so good for so long. And now we've had 3 cautions here pretty quick.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one for the admins to review because, it's one of those things, well, you could give him more room because you watch it. There's the initial contact right there. The 51 came down, tapped the 81. The 81 broke loose just a little bit, and then he tried saving it and got back up into the 51 machine. So, that's going to be a tough one to call. Could the 81 give him more room? Did the 51, could he have slowed down? Boy, oh boy, that's going to be an interesting call, but there's a lot of torn up race cars from that one. Now, there will be some beneficiaries from that. Cars making their way up into the top 10, top 5 even. Looks like the 55 of Yazik, unfortunately, has come down pit road to get a lot of his damage fixed, as has Michael Krobach in the number 72 machine. A couple of the cars that were up near the front of the race here tonight on pit road. Looks like the 51 of Mitch Brown. He did not get much damage because he just kind of went for a 360. He's still out there on the racetrack, but down in the 14th position. So tough break for him. Meanwhile, up at the front, Greg Evans and John Jenkins. Now they have some new cars behind him. Tyler Seville, Eric Stanford running 3rd and 4th. 5th position. How about this? Mark Cohn. Jim, I'm sure Mark is all of a sudden going, wow, this is pretty awesome.
I sure hope he gets his shifts right on the restart here after the Auto Club incident a few weeks ago with the missed shift over there, or the wrong shift.
Yeah, I think that was right at the
third
start of
to
the
second,
race, right?
not third to fourth. Yeah, right at the start. So let's hope that he gets that right, being up there in the front of the field. But what this is going to do, this really jumbles up the field, because now, while Evans is sitting there leading, that hasn't changed. Jenkins in second hasn't changed. Tyler Seville is suddenly in the 3rd position, and Eric Stanford in 4th. These are guys that were like 6th and 7th before that wreck, so they've moved up quite a bit. And then Cohn right there in the 5th position. So we're going to see some exciting action as we close here in the last 10 laps or so.
We're going to step away for just a quick commercial. We'll be right back here on 3-Wide TV.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and SERVPRO.com.
Welcome back to Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. Closing stages of this one, and Greg Evans leading the way, John Jenkins in second. But Peter and Jim, there's some new characters up here at the front with Tyler Seville and Eric Stanford. And one thing I'm very impressed with is that 85 car of Eric Stanford. He did not take qualifying time. He started in 35th position, and here he is in the top 5 in the closing stages.
Yeah, it's been a good run for him. That SERVPRO machine kept it mostly clean, not too much damage on that 85 machine, and now running up there towards the front. Same thing with the 11 machine of Tyler Seville. Not too much damage on that car either, and so definitely keeping it clean has been oh so important. Mark Cohn, not a scratch on that number 39 machine. We'll see if he can come away with a top 5 finish here tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm sure he would be oh so happy with that. What about Woody Mahan? I know he was one of your SERVPRO highlight drivers there, Jim. He's running now in the 7th position.
Absolutely. He has fought through the field and made it up there to the 7th position. Also, Craig Stike sitting in the 10th position, I believe, here now in the 57, right there next to Will Warsler. Pace car off the track. Green flag in the air, and we're back to racing here in the SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown. Race number 1.
And that number 83.
Good job getting down in front of Seville there as Evans got the jump that we've come to expect out of that 83 car tonight. But Jenkins not letting him get away, and he's peaking high. Now peaking low. We're caution once again.
Caution once again. Steve Buhala and the number 12 machine slow. Not quite sure what happened to the Holco Intercon machine. Oh, Tony Schoen there in the 33 machine going sideways. Greg, why don't you take us through this one, see if we can get a good view of it.
You see Buhala there on the outside right here at the initial start. Ball in the 33. Believe that's Giese to his inside. Gets away from him. You see him getting a jump on the outside there.
Oh, wow. Alan Young. Boy, Alan Young there in the 24 machine was off the pace, and Buhala and Schoen going 4 wide? Craig, was that 4 wide that we saw there briefly?
It was very close to it. I have to see it one more time, but man, that was very close to 4 wide before Calamity struck once again. Yep, 4.
Yeah, 4 wide through the trial over here at Atlanta Motor Speedway doesn't often work, and Alan Young had quite a bit of damage on that car. Not quite sure if he missed a shift or something like that, but unfortunately, Alan Young was definitely was off the pace. He already had quite a bit of damage in that number 24 machine, just trying to get to the end of this race. But this race has been extended, folks. We're going to overtime here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, and I'll tell you what, we're going to have 3 attempts at a green-white checker to hopefully see the checkered flag. But Jim, I'll let you do the honors. Why don't you see if you can dial up one of these drivers here, drag them up into the 3-wide TV channel, and ask them a couple questions, because the last few laps have been a little bit crazy, kind of the same thing we saw last week at Phoenix.
Well, you're going to have to teach me how to dial up on this scanner, because haven't quite figured that thing out up here. It's not quite like it is in the car, but let's see if we can grab Mark Cohn.
Okay, let's see if we can grab Mark Cohn. Where is he at? Well, now I got to find him, Jim, so that's easier said than done, because I actually don't see him in here, Jim.
All right, well, if we can't grab Mark Cohn, then let's grab Tyler Seville, who sits in 3rd.
Oh, well, we'll be able to grab him for sure, and let's see, and... oh, man, just as I say this, it starts to be a little bit crazy. Let's try this one more time. And, oh, I didn't quite get him.
All right, I'm throwing the scanner out of the window. We're just going to throw it out. Too bad. We're going to roll on with this one and continue on here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Well, so I guess that in lieu of that.
Surprise Jimmy's here.
Just as I throw the scanner on. Great. Hey, Tyler, it's Jim up in the TV booth. How you doing?
Not bad. How are you all?
Well, we're doing pretty good. We were enjoying the clean and green look of this race, and here in the last few laps, it's turned very yellow. So, how has that changed your strategy as the race has progressed and the cautions have come along?
Well, probably if it would have been green, I might have been able to get to 5th place, and that's a big if since I had fresher tires. But now everyone's pretty much in the same boat, and it's just getting all that you can get, which I think you can tell by all the cautions.
Absolutely, and I think these guys are really just trying to get every inch that they can get, and they're not giving any bit of room. But you think you got anything for that 83 of Evans, or you think the 7 ahead of you? Anybody that you think you can get around here before this thing is all said?
If I get a good enough restart, I might be able to get the 2nd, but I think that Greg's pretty much had the car all day. I mean, if I'm there going into the last corner, I'll dive it in and see what I can make happen. You never know.
And last but not least, you know any good pizza places in Florida that we could maybe stop, grab a pizza, maybe a beer on the way?
Oh, yeah, Slice Pizza Bar. I was just there yesterday. Really great food there in Clearwater and in around the Tampa area. So if you're ever down in that area, stop by and visit.
Yeah, Carlos, our producer, is saying that it was making him hungry, and he was thinking about driving to the Slice. And then he said that if we wanted to bring you up here, that you had to bring us pizza next time. So hopefully that'll be it, and hopefully this will be the finish of the race. Good luck to you, and hopefully you can get everything you can out of it.
All right, thanks.
All right. Well, that was driver number 11 machine, Tyler Seville, the Slice Porcupines machine. And running third right now to his outside is the number 85 machine, one of the SERVPRO machines. That, of course, driven by Eric Stanford. Mark Cohn sitting in 5th, your current top 5. Pace car lights are off once again. First of 3 attempts at the green-white checker. The Ford Mustang pace car slowly bringing it around at 60 miles an hour, but this time in one lap they'll be upwards of 170 miles an hour. There goes the Mustang pace car down pit road. Green flag back in the air, and that number 83, huge jump here on the restart. Caught John Jenkins sleeping a little bit. He's cleared by about 4 car lengths going off into turn number 1. Tyler Seville to the inside. He said that if he got a good jump on the restart, he'd be able to take that 2nd position. And here comes Mark Cohn trying to take the 3rd position away from John Jenkins down the backstretch. Look at them bump drafting almost. The 11 and the 39 trying to tandem together to get past the number 7 of Jenkins. Whoa, tight there. The 39 of Cohn had to back out of it. That gave Jenkins a run coming out of turn number 4. And Jenkins, I think he's going to hold on to that spot, just barely clearing Cohn. But now he's back underneath Seville. Side by side for 2nd. The white flag is out, Greg.
Final time through 3 and 4. We're watching the battle for 2nd. Greg Evans has pulled out to about a half-second lead. Seville has settled into 2nd place. It's a battle for 3rd. Here's Cohn to the inside of Jenkins.
On the back.
Greg Evans is going to take home the win, and it's going to sort itself out. Tyler Seville 2nd, and John Jenkins hangs on for 3rd. Great racing here at Atlanta.
Michael Krobach got turned around there going into turn 3 on the last lap. We saw the 66 car of Edward Bray up in the air and upside down, and quite a wild finish here at Atlanta.
You see cars still coming across the start-finish line. I think here comes Bray in the 66, perhaps. No, that is actually the 10 machine coming across the start-finish line, smoking. But yeah, there was a huge accident on the backstretch. Boy, oh boy, yeah, Edward Bray going up and over. Boy, got into the catch fence, did Edward Bray. We'll have to see if we can dial up a replay of that here on 3-Wide TV. Oh man, look at like Jackson Van Valkenburg going out there trying to get some extra laps in. But the number 83 machine burning it down here on the front stretch. Led the most laps here tonight. Great run for that man right there, Greg Evans, getting his 2nd win of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series season. And unfortunately for you, Jim, he's moving one closer to you on that leaderboard.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, I just had to bring that up. In fact, it was last time he won, you were in the booth, right? So maybe you just got to stop being in the booth, you know?
Well, I could walk over to race control again and go take care of some business over there if you guys don't want me over here.
No, it's always great having you in the booth, but I'll tell you what, crazy finish here tonight. As you see, Greg Evans going around in the Polish victory lap. Of course, that was one of the things Kulwicki did here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Was it Kulwicki who did that here? Yes, it was. Getting that in. I know Kulwicki did it, but I know after Kulwicki passed away, a lot of drivers also did it in remembrance of him. But great to see that out of Greg Evans tonight. There's a little bit of connection issues there. Great to see those connection issues after the race and not during the race. But what a crazy end to tonight's race. First, 130 laps or so caution-free, and then 154 laps to sort this whole thing out. Thank you for joining us here in the chat. We're going to step away here just for a brief moment and have some interviews with your top 3 finishers in just a brief moment.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and SERVPRO.com.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Crazy race here tonight. Crazy finish, but all in all, a great race for the American Sim Racing. We have got the third place driver here tonight, the #7 machine of John Jenkins. And here he is in the booth with us here now. John, crazy race for you. You kind of started back in 19th position. You slowly but surely worked your way up into the field, worked your way into the top 5, couple of cautions right there towards the end. You were briefly in the second position in that #7 super clean machine, but unfortunately lost out that spot right there at the end. All in all, great race by you. Great racecraft getting up there. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Followed Yazik up through there. Then we started green stops, and my plan was 50-50 and then to the end. And then that caution come out. But yeah, I mean, I was reeling Mitch in there under that green run, and before the caution come out, and I kind of wished it would went green, like everybody else probably. But other than that, it's just a solid race. I just took my time getting up through there, made sure I just kept her under me. Got pretty tight.
Yeah, we heard that from quite a few drivers in the pre-race that it got pretty tight, almost like Darlington out there with how many cars have right side damage. But yeah, under that green flag run, I did the math with 25 laps to go, and you were catching the number 51 by about 1.5 tenths per lap. And I did the math, and you would have caught him. So I know you definitely wanted to see that run out to the end. But a good third place finish for you, back on the podium after a couple of races away. I know, I think at Las Vegas, you said that you got a new wheel, a new setup. How's that working out for you?
I mean, like always, I'm fine tuning it, but I've gotten it a little bit to my liking more. So, I really love it. So it's a lot of fun.
How important is it for sim racers to be comfortable with their setup, and how important is that, and does it translate over to performance?
I don't necessarily know if wheel does, but I mean, with the force feedback in the SemiCube, you can feel the front tires whether you're using them up too much, but it's more of like your pedals that matter the most.
Absolutely. A lot of good pedals out there on the market. Of course, 1 week time we go to Homestead, Miami. What are your thoughts about going to Homestead?
I'm looking forward to it. It's a fun track. I enjoy it there. So it should be a lot of fun with these guys.
Very cool. But before we let you go, you got any shout outs for us here?
Yeah, I want to shout out to Greg. Good win for him. Good racing with Mark and his bounce back from his mishaps at Auto Club. And Tyler there at the end, I boxed the restart, so he got underneath of me. But it was a good racing. Shout out to Momentum Motorsports, Jordan Berry, Brandon, Chris, Travis, and Danny comes around every once in a while now. Super clean. Toyota. You guys for the broadcast, Jim, Sam for all they do. American Sim Racing Series. Hacksaw PCs. And I think we did the first SERVPRO, I think that's what it's called, challenge. Yeah, SERVPRO. All right. I was in the ballpark there. But glad to have that on board. It's a pretty cool deal.
Very cool. Well, John, we'll see you next week down in the beach near Miami, Homestead, Miami, for another 1.5 mile racetrack. Best of luck then.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right. Well, that was your third place finisher here tonight. And let's see if we can dial up the number 11 of Tyler Seville. And I believe Greg Rentz has caught up with him.
Tyler Seville, Greg Rentz, 3YTV. Do you have a copy?
Sure do.
Hey, Tyler, nice quiet race for you there, up in the top 10 for pretty much the whole thing. Started 6th, and you came home with a 2nd after a good battle there at the end with John.
Yeah, I was luckily able to stick on his inside there on the restart. I was able to clear him, but I don't think I had anything for the 83.
Well, Tyler, tell us about just kind of working your way through, because this one, it started off with such a long green flag run, but the cautions breeding cautions at the end. Tell us about how you had to transition from suddenly long green flag run to all of a sudden, oh, hey, I'm right up on.
Right. It just takes any plan that you had before the race and kind of threw it out the window. That's what's really great about the new tire model that we have this year. But when everyone's pitted there for fresh tires there at the end, it's just hoping that you restart on the inside and get a good restart. That's really all you can do. There are a couple of times, like if you pin people down on the outside, you can maintain your position, but then you run the risk of the inside car not holding their line on the bottom. So risk and reward there.
All right, well, Tyler, 2nd place tonight. Tell the viewers at home a little bit about what's coming up next for.
You broke up there at the end, but I know something that Jim's been working on all day is getting that NASCAR special event that ASRS is going to be doing.
All right, well, Tyler, real quick before we let you go, we know you got some shout-outs you want to give, so
Yeah, like to thank Slice and Perky Pints and everyone on World War Racing. We practiced a good bit the past couple of days to get us ready, and it looks like we put 3 cars in the top 10, so overall a great day.
All right, that's second place here at Atlanta. Tyler Seville, great run, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I guess that cat's out of the bag.
Can't win them all there, Jim. But I'll tell you who can win, and that is Greg Evans. We caught up with him. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, Greg, how about it? I go up to the TV booth, and you just start winning these races and just cutting away at that lead that I had on you. Man, congratulations on the win. How does it feel?
Man, it feels really good. I knew we had a pretty good car tonight with the setup and everything, and made a few adjustments to the offset and the ratio, tried to loosen it up a little bit on the long run. So just glad those adjustments worked out. And just like I said, had a really good car, had fun racing with Mitch and all the guys, and just a really good night for us.
Yeah, you did a nice job of avoiding all the trouble. It seemed to happen just behind you all night long. Mitch got the wall kind of early on, then ran into a car that was pitting. You avoided all of that kind of trouble. You had a nice clean race. You brought your car home in one piece. You could probably take this car to Homestead after you power wash all the grit off of the front and all the rubber off of it. But you probably could take it to Homestead next week and run just as good. So a great race. Tell us about how the track changed from the start to the finish of the race, and just how the handling characteristics of the car went along, and also the difference in traffic as you started not out front and then worked your way to the front.
Yeah, I really thought tire wear was going to be a bigger factor, honestly. I let Mitch kind of get out there at the first of the race and started tracking him down, but I think during that run I realized he could be a little more aggressive with the tire wear. The lines didn't really adjust a whole lot. There was a couple times, like midway through the run, you could kind of run the middle groove into one and get down to the bottom, and then later on in the run you had to run to almost as high as you could get and then try to get down to the bottom. But like I said, tire wear didn't come as big as a factor as I thought it was going to be. You still had to save tires, but it seemed like the tires, especially when you was out front, they kind of held on a lot longer. And I think definitely just being out in the clean air made a big difference, and especially on those green white checkers and the last 25 laps.
Yeah, it seemed like it was changing more for the cars that were back farther in the pack there towards the end, but pretty wild race. Any shout outs that you'd like to give there with that Carolina Simworks number 80?
Definitely. You got to thank Carolina Simworks. We're going to have duct tape and sure tape and T-Rex tape on the car in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. Got to thank my guys from Steel Horse Racing, my teammates over here, John Van Varelis and Sam Crow. I've got to give a big shout out. I tried to do a 33 burnout on the front straightaway and kind of etch it in the pavement. Working with the NASCAR with a modified tour, we lost a legend the other day in Wade Cole. Words can't really describe how much he meant to the series. He brought his car on a rollback. Most of the time he only had one or two guys, but the man just loved to race. So thinking of him, and this one's for him.
Well, congratulations, Greg, and yeah, we're really sorry for the loss there on the Whelen Modified Tour. Definitely a huge hole left in that tour. A couple weeks to get all the emotions in check before racing heads back again, and hopefully before too much longer, the cars will hit the track, and the greatest cure for sadness will be back to life. But man, this it really is weird not having racing going on in the physical world and having it all be here. So, Greg, we're really happy that you were with us tonight. Happy to see you win, and congratulations once again.
Thank you, guys. And like I said, thank you guys for broadcasting this, having it broadcasted and having your friends and sponsors watching. Man, that makes it a whole different ball game out here. And just thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Very cool. Greg Evans taking the win here tonight at one closer to the title held by Jim Foose as the winningest driver in the American Sim Racing Series history. But folks, that was a crazy race, crazy finish to it. But all in all, fantastic race here tonight. I think we just got to do one more thing, and that's go through tonight's race results. Greg Evans taking the win. Tyler Seville coming home in second. John Jenkins in third. Mark Cohn, great run for him. Just unbelievable. I know Mark coming into this race probably wasn't expecting to walk away with a top 5, but he's got himself a 4th place finish here tonight. Eric Stanford comes home in the top 5 for the SERVPRO. Of course, Greg Evans got the first SERVPRO Wheelman Showdown victory. He'll be leading that points tally as well. Woody Mahan comes home in 6th. Craig Sykes 7th. Jason Stewart in 8th. Jimmy McKee 9th. And rounding out the top 10, Will Warser in the number 29 machine. Your winner 1 week ago. But that is your top 10. Greg, why didn't you hit the 11th place driver?
Coming home in 6th or 11th. Nice quiet run for the number 6, Jared Haggerty. Mitch Brown, after having such a dominant car early in the race and being right up there with Greg Evans, gets caught up in an accident. He comes home in 12th with Michael Krobach involved in that last lap altercation. Coming home lucky 13. Tim Knott and Alan Young rounding out the top 15. There's Brian Yazik, another guy who was caught up. He was in the accident before the last one, and he had such a good run going as well. Tough break for him to come home in 16th. Nick Gardner, Richard Fletcher in the 43, Adam Jersky, and Tony Schoen rounding out the top 20. Jim, 21st on back.
Yeah, we got Nick Curling in 21st. He was in that last lap wreck. Grant Brown in the 52 comes home 22nd in his second start. James Lorello 23rd. Kelsey Rogers in 24th. Michael Whiting 25th. Edward Bray 26th. Steve Buhala 27th. Alex Giese 28th. Troy Haight in 29th. And Jackson Van Valkenburg 6 laps down rounds out your top 30.
In the 31st position, Shane Parrish in the number 81 machine had a great run going. Unfortunately, ends up 11 laps short here tonight. Jordan Harnish in 32nd. Ron Shoot in the number 20 machine rounds out the top 33. Pete Baskins finishing 34th. Chris Stouffer 35th. J.R. Bash and making his first race of the season here tonight, unfortunately finishing 36th. Cody Spiker 37th. Richard Stallings 38th. Todd Kirkwood 39th. And Jonathan Holstein rounds out the 40-car field here tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Before we go, we do want to give a few thank yous. And in fact, those thank yous, first and foremost, are going to be thank you for the sponsors of the league: Hacksaw PC, SERVPRO, DB Sim Racing, American Regardless, Glassdoor Brewing, Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, Kirkwood Transportation, Patriot Media and Marketing, Step Tire, and Falcon Race Wraps. Thanks for all those different sponsors to make this league possible. But we also want to thank our friends over at OCR TV for the graphics package and SimTV for the camera angles. Folks, before we go, any final thoughts, Greg?
Just a great race here at Atlanta, and looking forward to hopefully being able to be with you guys a little bit more often here over the next few weeks, and hopefully that I'm able to stick around for a little.
Very cool. Jim, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to send our thoughts and prayers to everybody affected by the coronavirus. That's why the real racing isn't going on and everything, but thoughts with all those folks that are being affected. Thoughts with everybody that's stuck at home, watching the world go by outside. So, kind of some tough times in the world, but we'll get all through it. Also, say hello to my mom and dad. Good news is my mom should be getting out of her facility there after her accident in January. Should be out tomorrow. And Dad just went in for a second surgery. Spend a short time at the hospital, and then he'll be home in about a week or so, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely good news to hear, Jim. But until we meet again next week, same time, same place here on 3YTV, the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Series goes to Homestead, Miami. We'll see you then. See ya!